Radhava Kunja Bihari
Jaya Radha Madhava Prabhupada ki Ramashnapad Paramahansa Prevachaka Acharya Ashtottara Shata Shishimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Srila Prabhupada ki Ananta Koti Vaishnavanda ki Namachay Srila Haridas Thakur ki Prem Se Gaur Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda ki Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Govinath Shyama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan ki Vrindavan Dham ki Mathura Dham ki Ganga Amay ki Yamuna Amay ki Tulsi Devi ki Bhakti Devi ki Transcendental book distribution ki, Samaveda Bhakti Vrinda ki, all glories to Hare Krishna, all glories to Hare Krishna, all glories to Hare Krishna, all glories to Guru and Gauranga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay, we're reading from chapter 10, Canto 2. Bhagavatam is the answer to all questions. So, Eko Nanatvam Anivichan Yogatalpat Samuthitaha Viryam Hiranmayam Devo Mayaya Vyasrajat Tridha Eko Nanatvam Anvichan Yogatalpa Samuttitaha Viryam Hiranyamayam Devo Mayaya Vyasrajat Tridha Eko Nanatvam Anvichan Yogatalpa Samuttitaha Viryam Hiranmayam Devo Mayaya Vyasrajat Tridha Eko Nanatvam Anvichan Yogatalpa Samuttitaha Viryam Hiranmayam Devo Mayaya Vyasrajat Tridha. Please repeat.
Eko Nanatvam
Anvichan Yogatalpat Samuttitaha Viryam Devo Mayaya Vyasrajat Tridha Eko Nanatvam Anvichan Yogatalpat Samuttitaha Viryam Devo Mayaya Vyasrajat Tridha. Okay, just 1 second. Okay. Ekaha, he one alone. Nanatvam, varieties. Anvichan, so desiring. Yogatalpat, from the bedstead of mystic slumber. Samuttitaha, thus generated. Viryam, the semina, sorry. Oh, okay, slightly different. It says semina here, semen. Hiranmayam, golden hue. Devaha, the demigod. Mayaya, by the external energy. Vyasrajat, perfectly created. Tridha, in 3 features. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki. The Lord, while lying on His bed of mystic slumber, generated the seminal symbol, golden in hue, through external energy out of His desire to manifest varieties of living entities for Himself alone. Purport. In the Bhagavad Gita 9.78, the creation and annihilation of the material world are stated as follows. Sarva bhutani kaunteya prakritim yanti mamikam kalpakshaya punastani kalpadau vishrujamyaham prakritim swam avashthabhya vishrujami punah punah bhuta gramam imam krishnam avasam prakriter vasat. At the end of each millennium, the creative forces, namely the material nature and the living entities who struggle in the material nature, all merge together in the transcendental body of the Lord. And again, when the Lord desires to manifest them, all of them are again displayed by the Lord. Therefore, the material nature is working under the control of the Lord. All of them under the agency of material nature and under the control of the Lord are thus repeatedly created and annihilated by the will of the Lord. As such, before the creation or manifestation of material cosmic world, the Lord existed as total energy, Samashti, and thus desiring himself to be diffused to many, he expanded himself further into multi-total energies, Samashti. From the multi-total energy, he further expanded himself into individuals in three dimensions, namely Adhyatmik, Adhidaivik, and Adhibhautik. As explained before, Vyashti. As such, the whole creation and the creative energies are non-different and different simultaneously, because everything is an emanation from him, the Vishnu or Mahamad Samishti. Nothing of the cosmic energies is different from him. But all such expanded energies have specific functions and display as designed by the Lord, and therefore they are simultaneously different from the Lord. The living entities are also similar energy, margin, and potency of the Lord, and thus they are simultaneously one with and different from him. At the stage of non-manifestation, the living entity remains potent in the Lord, and when they are let loose in the cosmic manifestation, they are exhibited differently in terms of different desires under the modes of nature. Such differential manifestations of the living energies are conditional states of the living entities. The liberated living entities, however, in the Sanatana eternal manifestation, are unconditionally surrendered souls, and therefore they are not subject to the condition of creation and annihilation. So this creation takes place by the glance of the Lord from his bedstead of mystic slumber. And thus all the universes and the Lord of the universe, Brahma, are again and again manifested and annihilated. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Anmitamena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Sri Chaitanya Manovishtam Stapitamena Bhutale Swayam Rupakadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shiyatapatakalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Laita Shivishakhan Vitam Shahe Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabindu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namasute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneswari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Haribe Vamchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyo Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Putale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminitin Bhakti Vikasa Swaminitin Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Putale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminitin Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharne Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschate Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivas Adi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jnanananda Mayam Devam Nirmal Spatakakridam Adharam Sarva Vidyanam Hayagrivam Upasmaya Guru Vaishnav Bhagavan Tinir Smarana Hai Vigna Vinashana Nayase Hai Nijas Panchita Purana. Here we continue with the way of creation, or the way that the creation has been described here in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Specifically here, described as the Lord, while lying on his bed of mystic sampler, generated the seminal symbol, golden in hue, through external energy out of his desire to manifest varieties of living entities from himself alone. So this is a very famous statement that is also there in the Upanishads. And as usual, the Mayavadis translate in such a way to pose Vishnu as the some sort of object that took a personality in the form of a person. I was looking at some of those verses, but a specific Upanishads described like that in the beginning, that there was one, and then that one desired to become many in the form of that, whatever that energy was in the form of a person, and it desired to become many. So anyways, there's so many logical fallacies within that. Desire means a person. It's not that he was not a person and then became a person, as they say in the Bhagavad Gita in the 7th chapter. This verse comes. Could you give me this Achman cup? I'm going to cheat my hand. So as in the 7th chapter, it comes, I think, text 24. Avyaktam vyaktim apannam manyate mam abhuddhayah param bhavam ajanantu mama vyayam anuttamam. So unintelligent men who do not know me perfectly think that I, the Supreme Personality God, Krishna, was impersonal before and have now assumed his personality. Due to their small knowledge, they do not know my high nature, which is imperishable and supreme. So this same verse, we can see the translation that is done by a Mayavadi. For example, hang on a sec, let me see, to find a Mayavadi one. Okay, so then they quote like this, okay, easy one, Vivekananda. Not knowing my supreme nature, immutable and transcendental, foolish men think that I, the unmanifest, am endowed with the manifest form. So they take this, and the question is, what is the real nature of the Lord? It is unmanifest, transcendental, imperishable, and supreme, that he does not exist. His personality does not exist, and it is foolish to think that he is manifest in the form avajananti ma mudha. So then Krishna says later, they do not take this into consideration, that Krishna directly says that those who are fools, those who are mudhas, they think my person, they think they deride my form. So here the Mayavadis directly take that. So similarly in the Upanishads, this that which was one before. So when they translate these Upanishads, here we go. I'm just trying to make sure that I have this, trying to get this statement up. Okay, here we go. I think. Okay, I'm not able to get it up, but they'll specifically say like that. He took the form, he took a personality in order to undergo all of these different creations. So even from the beginning, even in the Upanishads, the way they translate all this, it brings about this impersonal sort of understanding. And similarly here, although the Lord is being described lying on his bed of mystic slumber, he's transcendental, they take him to be ultimately coming from that which is non-existence, that which is just a multi-total energy, as Srila Prabhupada actually comments, that he is Maha Samishti, that he is a total energy. So the Mayavadis take that only to be the total energy by itself. Whereas the total energy being referred here, as Prabhupada would often say, there is the energy and there is the energetic. There is no energy without the energetic. So it is very important to understand and easy to understand that the Lord is never impersonal. So here the creation that is coming from desire. The Lord desired to expand himself, or here is mentioned, desire to manifest varieties of living entities from himself alone. So the Lord's desire was to expand himself into many living entities, and the Mayavadis take that into that the Lord, that he split himself, that is the Parinamavada, that the Lord, he just split himself into many, but actually he expanded himself into many. He used his energies, he expanded his energies. That is the proper understanding that Srila Prabhupada is giving here, that Prabhupada specifically makes that point. He expanded himself into multi-total energies. So it's not that he himself was split. The Lord is never split. But the Lord expands his energy. It's not that the Lord undergoes transformation, is that he expands his energy. And those energies have different transformation of being the internal, marginal and external energy. They're all coming from the internal. So it is foolish to think that the Lord, He is transforming. He desired to create, He desired to become many. That is being said here in the Upanishads also. But that simply means that He desired, He expanded Himself into many different aspects here as being described specifically of from the Lord existed as a total energy, and thus desiring, He diffused to many, He expanded further into multi-total energy, into the universes, as you can see there in the form of Lord Vishnu lying down in the ocean. He is expanding Himself. He is the Maha Samashti, He is the total energy, but then He is expanding that into multi-total energies, which is the different universes that are being manifested, and then from there He is expanding into the 3 dimensions, namely Adhyatmic, Adidaivik and Adibhautik, as explained before. Vyashti, as there was given a little bit before, specifically this Adidaivik section where one living entity is dependent on another. So this Adidaivik, he takes into the form of the devas, those the controllers of the senses, or the controllers of the different senses of the living entity, in the form of a sun god, in the form of Indra, such and such. These are the Adidaivik aspects here that is being described. He further expands this multi-total energy that is being into. Adidaivik is all the demigods that control. They are the controlling deities of different aspects of the universe. And then you've got the Adibhautik, which is the external, it seems that is just the external energy itself. And then the Adidaivik, Adi-atmic, which is the Jiva, Adi-atmic, the self, which is the individual minute living entities that are there. So these Adi-bhautik, Adi-daivik and Adi-atmic, they perform the function. As such, whole creation and the creative energies are non-different and different simultaneously. They all come about, and it forms a complete creation in which the universe functions, just like Brahma is there as Adi-daivik to make sure everything goes on properly. The living entities have to be manifested, and the nature, the Bhumirapo Nalo value, the earth, ether, all of these things also have to be there. So these things are there, and the Lord Vishnu has created them all. And it is a very important point to understand these things. And ultimately, Lord Vishnu is also this actually aspect that is being discussed here. Is this the sum total, or the supreme person, who is the obviously the source of all energies, and then there is the living entities who are the part and parcels, and this is given in the Shastra as Swamsa and Vivinamsa. So Swamsas are the Vishnu Tattvas, and Vivinamsas are the Jiva Tattvas. Those are the two distinctions that are given. That Swamsas are those who are the controllers, and the Vivinamsas are the part and parcel of the Swamsas. And actually the Lord Vishnu, He Himself is a Swamsa. He is the also a part of Krishna. So this actually discussion takes place in the Srimad Bhagavatam 10.1.2, where Srila Prabhupada, he describes this right here. So Govinda, Krishna is the original personified. Krishna to Bhagavan Swayam. Even Lord Mahavishnu, who is by who his breath creates many millions upon millions of universes, is Lord Krishna, Kala Vishesha, or plenary portion of a plenary portion. Mahavishnu is a plenary expansion of Sankarshan, who is plenary expansion of Narayana. Narayana is a plenary expansion of Chaturvyuha, and the Chaturvyuha are plenary expansions of Baladev, the first manifestation of Krishna. Therefore, when Krishna appeared with Baladev, all Vishnu Tattvas appeared with him. So it is very important to understand that although Mahavishnu is there, he is the sum total energy, he is also the part, as being mentioned here by Srila Prabhupada, is Kala Vishesha. Lord Krishna is the original, or plenty of the, here, Mahavishnu is the Kala Vishesha, he is a Vishesha, he is also, he is a part, he is not the, as being described in Krishna to Bhagavan Swayam. Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and Vishnu is he is an expansion of the Chaturvya. Here, so is a plenary expansion Sakarshan, who is a part of the Chaturvya, who is expansion of Baladev. And Baladev being the first manifestation of Krishna's, of Vishnu Tattva, is the first manifestation. So in the Brahma Samhita, Diparchirevehi Dashantaram Abhipeta, Dipayate Vivita Hetu Samana Dharma, Yastadrikevacha Vishnutaya Vibhati, Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. This comes, let me see if I can bring it up. Do you know exactly what verse that is? Let me see here. Just wanna Brahma Samhita. I can do such here. Sorry, I should know these things. Forget. Okay. So here, the light of one candle being communicated to other candles, although it burns separately in them, is the same in its quality. I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, who exhibits himself equally in some mobile manner in his various manifestations. So, purport: the presiding deities of Hari Dhama, viz. Hari, Narayana, Vishnu, etc., the subjective portions of Krishna are being described. The majestic manifestation of Krishna is Narayana, Lord of Vaikuntha, whose subjective portion is Karana Dakshay Vishnu, the primeval cause, whose portion is Garbha Dakshay Vishnu. Shri Dakshay Vishnu is again the subject portion of Garbha Dakshay Vishnu. The word Vishnu indicates all-pervading, omnipresent and omniscient personality. In this shloka, the activities of the subjective portions of the divinity are enunciated by the specifications of the nature of Shri Dakshay Vishnu, the personality of Vishnu. The embodied form of manifestive qualities, Sattva Guna, is quite distinct from that of Shambhu, who is adulterated with mundane qualities. Vishnu's subjective personality is on the level with that of Govinda. Both consist of the unadulterated substantive principle. Vishnu is the form of the manifest causal principle, is identical with Govinda as regard quality. The manifestive quality, Sattva Gun, that is found to exist in the triple mundane quality in an unadulterated entity, being allotted qualities of mundane activity and inertia. So, here, the appearance of Narayana in the form of Mahavishnu, the appearance of Mahavishnu is the form of in the form of Garbhadakshay Vishnu, and the appearance of Vishnu in the form of Kshidakshay Vishnu are examples of the ubiquitous function of his divinity. Vishnu is God himself, and the two others, Guna avatars, are all other gods, are entities possessing authority and subordinating him. From the subjective majestic manifestation of the Supreme Self, luminous Govinda, emanate Karnadakshay Vishnu, Garbhadakshay Vishnu, and Shridakshay Vishnu, and all others derivative, subjective, divine descendant avatars such as Rama, analogous to communicating light appearing in different candles, shining by the operation of spiritual potency of Govinda. So, main point being made here is that Govinda is the Adi Purusha, Ishvara Parama Krishna, Sachit Ananda Vigraha, Nadi Adi Govinda Sarva Karana Karanam, that he is the original cause of all causes. Although Lord Vishnu is the cause of this manifestation, and often sometimes described in the Srimad Bhagavatam as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who he is, but the Srimad Bhagavatam centers around the point of Krishna to Bhagavan Swayam, that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, based on the conclusion also of Brahma Samhita and many other scriptures. So Krishna is the Adi Purusha, he is the Supreme Person from which everything is manifesting, even Mahavishnu. So these creations that are being described here are of Mahavishnu, who manifests this material universe in his dreamlike state, this mystic slumber. Oh man, I sneezed right in. So he manifests this simply in his mystic slumber, not even having to think. He's in his yoga nidra, a state of transcendental sleep, and he's manifesting all of these universes. So he simply does that by his desire. He manifests all these living entities, and Srila Prabhupada mentions that at no point are the living entities at no point do they not possess their individual identity, as Krishna makes the point in the fourth chapter, or maybe in the second chapter. There was never a time where I didn't exist, nor you. So it's a very important point that Krishna makes in the Bhagavad Gita, that you will continue to exist, your individuality will continue to exist, and so will mine. That at no point do we become one at all. So Krishna makes that the individual soul is unbreakable and insoluble and can neither be burned or dried. He is present everywhere, unchangeable, immovable, and eternally the same. So the living entity, all created beings are unmanifest in their beginning, manifest in their intimate state, and unmanifested again when annihilated. So what need is there for lamentation? And so Srila Prabhupada is speaking about that particular principle in the Bhagavad Gita, in this purport here, that the living entities, along with the manifestation, they become manifest and then they become unmanifest again. But their individual nature does not change. It is unchangeable. It's not that it becomes one. If it was to merge back into the into Vishnu and was to become Vishnu, then that would mean that it is changeable from his individual nature. The individual nature becomes the oneness nature, but Krishna does not say that in the Bhagavad Gita. He says the individual soul is unbreakable and insoluble. It is and can neither be burned or dried. Is everlasting, present everywhere, unchangeable, immovable, and eternally the same. So eternally the same is, but before all that, he says the individual soul remains eternally the same. What does that mean? That he remains an individual. It does not change. It does not change. It does not become one. An individual does not become one. That refers to change. So it is a very important principle that the Mayavadis constantly just kind of overlook. Krishna is hammering that over and over again, that the living entity is an individual. It is unmanifest, manifest, and unmanifest, manifested, and unmanifested again. So the living entity is always an individual, and that he is eternally the same, that we will never lose our individual nature, even in the position of liberation, or that liberation which is considered to be oneness with that aspect of the Lord, of the Brahman aspect, is not actually liberation. It is just freedom from the material world to some extent, but one has to again descend back due to his unnatural state of living condition, because his natural and his eternal position, as Krishna describes, is that he's an individual. So he has to be able to exhibit that individual nature. Otherwise, the living entity has not attained liberation. Liberation ultimately means to be on that platform where one can exhibit his true nature as an individual. So these worlds are manifest and unmanifested again and again, as Srila Prabhupada has often made the point, for the living entity to rectify himself, for the living entity to rectify his position in this material world as those who are willingly performing activities against the true nature against the real desire of the living entity, as being stated here, that as stated at the stage of non-manifestation, the living energies remain potent in the Lord, and when they are let loose in the cosmic manifestations, they are exhibited differently in terms of different desires under the modes of nature. Such differential manifestations of the living energies are conditional states of the living entities. The living liberated entities, however, in the Sanatana eternal manifestation are unconditionally surrendered souls, and therefore they are not subject to the conditions of creation and annihilation. So this creation takes place by the glance of the Lord from his bedstead of mystic slumber. So thus all the universes and the Lord of the universe, Brahma, are again and again manifested and annihilated. So it's a very difficult position for the living entity to undergo this manifestation and annihilation and again and again and again. Why? Because his desires are never fulfilled. Therefore, when he again enters into the Mahatattva, when he again enters into this, back into the body of Lord Vishnu, his desires become unmanifest in the sense that they become paused, here described as remain potent. But then when he is manifested again, he has to try to undergo different activities to fulfill those desires, and those activities are under the modes of nature. They're exhibited in terms of different desires under the modes of nature. Therefore, we attain different bodies and take upon different situations in our life in order to try to fulfill those desires. But until a living entity understands this point and realizes that actually in his position of annihilation and manifestation, actually a great level of suffering is going on, he will not be able to come to the level of Krishna consciousness. He will not be able to understand what is Krishna consciousness as this was being described. The what is this word that was being used? We were discussing quite a lot about it. The back of the Lord, Prabhupada says that specific word. The back of the Lord? You know how it was describing the there's Maya on the back of the Lord, and there's light is forward and the back is darkness.
Well, irreligion's the back, right?
Yeah. But that particular word you were pondering over, remember that? And you said, well, we understand these points, but what is this specific word that was being used? Oh man, I don't remember either. Because then I said, so well, actually it's like, well, until one can see that there is what is darkness, he does not, until he realizes that he's in darkness, he cannot understand what is light. What was that? I don't know.
Oh, yeah. Composite or something. Composition. I can find it.
Yeah, you can find that. Yeah. So the living entity, until he realizes his position in the material world, contrapoint.
No, that's not it.
Is it contra something? Contraposition.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah, contraposition. Until he realizes his contraposition, until he understands his position, that he's actually in darkness, and that I should look towards light, or until he sees Krishna consciousness, actually you cannot understand that you're in darkness. Because ignorance is bliss is also another statement that we often quote, because I was making that point that time, that one's position is generally that until you see a higher thing, you don't realize how low you are. Just like sometimes you don't clean your room and you don't realize how dirty it is until you clean it. So you don't actually realize how much ignorance we're in until we come to start to realize what Krishna consciousness is, or that there is Krishna consciousness, that there is an eternal nature of the soul, that there is an eternal position of the soul, there is an eternal realm by which we should exist in. People are ignorant of that, so therefore they cannot actually even start to fathom that actually this misery that I'm experiencing in this material world, dealing with my desires and dealing with the different modes of material nature and different bodies and birth, death, old age and disease, until he realizes that those things are causing him suffering, or he takes actually those suffering, they take that suffering to be a part of life, and that's the way of life, and there's nothing we can do about it, until he's tries to come out of that ignorance and does not just accept the ignorance, he cannot become free. He cannot become liberated. So those living entities, they sometimes are pushed to do that, to think a little bit more. Or sometimes by their own experience of the material world, they start to come to a conclusion of the nature of this world, and then may inquire into higher subject matters and start to approach the aspect of devotional service or liberation. But the liberated living entities, those who are on the platform of, who are Nitya Siddhas, or who have attained that platform by Kripa or by sadhana Siddhas, they no longer have to undergo this annihilation manifestation such and such. And in that state, they're actually never under anxiety, they never under fear. As said here, the liberated living entities, however, in the Sanatana eternal manifestation, are unconditionally surrendered souls, and therefore they are not subject to the conditions of creation and annihilation. So these creations take place by the glance of the Lord from his bedstead of mystic slumber, and thus all the universes and the Lord of the universe, Brahma, are again and again manifested and annihilated. So the unconditional living entities, the spiritual master, the pure devotees, they are not undergoing such conditioning like we are. They are free of this conditioning. They are surrendered souls unto the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality Godhead. For them, there's many statements in the Srimad Bhagavatam. It does not matter whether they're situated in hell or heaven, because for them it is the same thing, because they see everywhere and everything to be a manifestation of the Lord, as is being stated here, that the Lord is present everywhere. Although he's expanded in his energies, he's individual at the same time, as Krishna makes that point in the 9th chapter also. Let me find some of these quotes here, if I can. Okay. So some quotes from the Srimad Bhagavatam, 6th canto. My dear Sati, persons who are devoted to Narayana, who are not afraid of anything, if they are elevated to the higher planetary systems, or if they get liberation from material contamination, or if they are pushed down to the hellish condition of life, or in fact in any situation, whatever, they are not afraid of any situation, they are not afraid of anything, simply because they have taken shelter of the lotus feet of Narayana. For them, any position in the material world is as good as another. My dear Devi, this is now 12th canto, 10th chapter. My dear Devi, the great Brahmana sage Markandeya has attained unflinching faith and devotion unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and as such, he does not aspire after any benediction, including liberation from the material world. So the pure devotees of the Lord, there's also many other statements throughout the Srimad Bhagavatam that are like that. The pure devotees, they see everything as a manifestation of the Lord. They see the Lord everywhere. They do not actually, it's mentioned that the Uttama Adhikari, he does not see non-devotees. He sees everyone as devotees. He cannot distinguish. How does that verse start in the Bhagavad Gita? With the Brahmana sees the sage, the dog eater. Yes, Pandita Samadarshana, but Vidya Vinaya Sampanne, Brahmane Gavi Hastine, Suni Chaiva Swapakecha, Pandita Samadarshana. That the great sage on the platform of the soul, one who is in knowledge, Vidya Vinaya Sampanne, one who has the eyes to see, one who is in knowledge, he does not see a distinct, he sees the super soul within all the living entities. He sees God within the living entities. He sees Krishna present everywhere. He sees the super soul within the hearts of all living entities. So the pure devotee, he does not desire, his desire is only one, which is service to the Supreme Personality Godhead. Whether he's in a hellish situation or he's in a very favorable situation, he is never shaken, because he has attained unflinching faith and devotion unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is a position of person who is a pure devotee. He has attained unflinching devotion to the Supreme Person. And how is that done? Well, that is described in the Srimad Bhagavatam 3:25-26. let me bring it up here. 3:25, 26. Sorry. So, Bhaktya puman jat viragya aindriya dushta shrutan mad rachanan chintaya chitasya yato grahane yoga yukto yatishyate rujushbhir yoga margaihi. Thus, constantly engaged in devotional service in the association of devotees, a person gains distaste for sense gratification, both in this world and in the next, by constantly thinking about his activities of the Lord. This process of Krishna consciousness is the easiest process of mystic power, and when one is situated on that path of devotional service, he is able to control the mind. So, this pastime that is being described here, even Vishnu, Mahavishnu, manifesting the universe, just for the devotee to even just think about that. Actually here, Prabhupada writes in the purport, very important, in all scriptures people are encouraged to act in a pious way so that they can enjoy sense gratification not only in the life but also in the next. For example, one is promised promotion to heavenly kingdom of higher planets by pious fruitive activities. But a devotee in the association of devotees prefers to contemplate upon the activities of the Lord, how He has created this universe, how He is maintaining it, how the creation dissolves, and how in this spiritual kingdom the Lord pastimes are going on. So a devotee thinking about the Lord, as being said here, that thinking is not exactly only the pastimes of the Lord, of Krishna playing in the Vrindavan forest, but it can also include how He has created this universe, how Mahavishnu manifests this universe. To know that, to understand that, that is also actually contemplating upon and thinking about the Lord, because actually that makes things very easy, as throughout the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, Krishna or Vishnu makes it clear how one can think about Him. Actually this Virata Rupa section comes in a little bit early in the second canto, describing all the different forms of the Lord and how one can actually see the Lord in everything. Just like we have the sun is shining very brightly. How do we see the Lord? Yat chakshire savita sakala grahanam raja samasta surya murti asecha teja yasyagya bhramit, what is it? Yasyagya bhramiti sambrita kala chakro govindamadi purusham tamham vajami is the eye of the Lord. The sun is the eye. We see like that. We see all the other, there's so many other descriptions given in the Srimad Bhagavatam of how the trees are described as the hairs of the Lord, and so many other descriptions are given like that. And so we can see, just like in the when we chant Damodar Ashtakam, this is the lips of the Lord are described, are very reddish. So reddish like the bimba fruit. So even when we see a fruit that is very reddish, we can think about the Lord's lips. We can think about the lotus. When you see a lotus flower, we can immediately imagine, we can immediately see, we can immediately connect it to Krishna. Immediately, this is the lotus feet of the Lord. It always described lotus feet, the lotus eyes, the lotus mouth. It immediately connects to Krishna. Just like when you see a peacock, at least for devotees, when you see a peacock, immediately the image of Krishna is in the mind. There's no at least, just growing up, and that's like the, symbol of Krishna. If you see a peacock, that's like Krishna wears a peacock feather. That's it. It's directly connected with Krishna. So a devotee, we can, us in the conditional state, generally see certain things and think about our mundane life and how in the past, I remember you see something and you think about that one song that you used to hear, or that one movie that you watched. But the pure devotees, when they see, just like we're discussing sometimes, certain aspect of devotion, no service, or certain things immediately remind us of Krishna. There's not like a second thought of at least when we see a peacock or a lotus flower, it's like it's been so engraved in our minds. Every time you read the descriptions of the Lord, it's engraved within our consciousness that this is directly related to the Lord. So similarly, the pure devotees, this manifestation that Mahavishnu is creating, each and every aspect of it, they're able to directly relate it to the Lord. They don't see any separate. thing. Just as one does, like I was saying, one doesn't see separately the Lord and the lotus flower. Immediately you think of a lotus flower, immediately you think about Krishna. So the pure devotee, everything and anything he sees, immediately he thinks about Krishna. In one lecture, Prabhupada actually says that actually nothing is material. Everything is spiritual. As soon as you try to think this is for my enjoyment, then it is material. So when you see, Prabhupada said, when you see a rose, and you think how Krishna will smell that very nicely, how Krishna will enjoy that very nicely, immediately that is spiritual. That rose is spiritual, that rose is not material. But when we see that, how that is so good for my enjoyment, then that is material. So this material universe that is created, it's actually coming from the spiritual person, is coming from a divine person. So it is actually divine, as Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita. It is divine. Devi esha gunamaya mamamaya duratyaya. It is divine, it is divinely inspired, it is divinely created. Although it is the external energy of the Lord, if one is actually in proper consciousness, he sees the Lord everywhere, even within this manifestation, because he is everywhere. So if we are to fix our consciousness in the right way, our conditional state will become unconditioned, and we no longer have to go through annihilation and the creation and annihilation, because we become situated on the platform of Krishna consciousness, of this platform of Brahman, platform of spiritual realization. So no longer taking to birth, death, old age and disease. So it requires us to discuss these things in Satam Prasangam Mama Vidya Samvido Bhavantir Hit Rasayana Kataha. What's the next bit? Tas Joshanad Aswa I don't know what you're saying in the middle. Aswa Apavarga Vartmani Siddha Raktir Bhaktir Anugramasyati. So that in the association of pure devotees, discussion of the pastimes of the Lord gives great pleasure to the ears and the heart. By discussions, by cultivating such knowledge, one gradually becomes advanced on the path of devotional service, and therefore he is freed and his attraction becomes fixed, and real devotional service begins. So this glorification, as we're discussing, of Mahavishnu, manifesting all these universes, are being done in the association of the Lord, and when we do it in the association of the devotees of the Lord, then of pure devotees of the Lord, Satam Prasangam, those who are free, Mama Vidya Samvido, of whatever material desire, then it is very satisfying to hear. Actually, when we're in tune, these pastimes are very satisfying to hear, but when we're out of tune, then it becomes just a drag, just like when we chant around sometimes, when we're not focused, when is this going to finish, when is this going to finish, and you look, and you've only just finished 8 beads, and it's like, oh my God, I was hoping I would be at the other side by this time. But when we're focused every day, and we're hearing nicely the Mahamantra, when we're hearing nicely the Srimad Bhagavatam, and from hearing nicely from the spiritual master, then everything becomes enlivened, everything becomes full of life. Material life is stagnant, spiritual life is full of variety, Prabhupada writes in the 1st canto, in the 3rd canto, and in another place also. He writes like this. What does this mean? Just when we become materially conscious, even within devotional service, then our life becomes very stagnant. It's like very boring. It's not enlivening. It's very dry. It's like very hard to go through. But when we become absorbed in hearing and understanding and performing devotional service with the proper consciousness, it's very enlivening. As we've had experiences, otherwise we wouldn't be here. When we're in proper consciousness, when our mind is in control, that's the part of the verse in 26, is that he gains distaste for sense gratification, both in this world and the next, by constantly thinking about the activities of the Lord. This process of Krishna consciousness is the easiest process of mystic power, and when one is actually situated on the path of devotional service, he is able to control the mind. So when we're actually situated on the platform of devotional service, and when that mind is controlled by hearing of the pastimes of the Lord, then spiritual life is very dynamic. Everything which, although you're doing the same thing every day, it feels full of variety, full of taste, full of full of life, because we're actually absorbed in hearing. This is the most important part of devotional service, is to hear. Is the hearing from the spiritual master, hearing from the pure devotee, and hearing from other devotees is the platform on which we base our whole devotional service, hearing and chanting. So we should take great care to chant our rounds properly. We should take great care to hear from the spiritual master, because sometimes we hear, but it does not, we listen, but we do not, we hear with our ears, but we do not actually take in what the spiritual master says. As seen examples many times within our lives in the past history of Srila Prabhupada's International Society of Krishna ISKCON movement and Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's Gaudiya mission and Bhaktivinoda Thakur's, that although they gave proper instructions to the disciples and gave complete knowledge of how to continue on, they did not take that on, simply due to not being able to actually hear from the spiritual master. Hearing means taking the instruction and applying it in our lives. And we've seen many examples also in our lives of where devotees, they hear from the spiritual master, but they hear what he's saying, but they just think that's some principle that doesn't apply to them. We should understand that everything the spiritual master speaks applies directly to us. He's speaking for a particular purpose. We should not think, oh well, he's speaking about this, but it does not apply to me. We should rack our minds to see how that applies to my life. We should really use all our intelligence to see how the spiritual master's words are directly applying in our life, because that is the foremost principle and duty of the disciple. We've seen how the spiritual master, he is Trikalagya, he knows the past, present and future. Seeing the future, he is speaking on certain subject matters. But the disciples, they do not, even though his desire is of a particular, he wants something particular to happen, and he's expressing that before even meeting with the disciples. When he meets the disciples didn't even hear anything that was going on in those classes. So it is very important that we always, when we listen to the spiritual master, apply it in our lives. Don't think you're just hearing for the sake of hearing. I'm hearing for the sake of just, I'm here. So the Bhagavatam says, Satam prasanga mama vidya samvido, that just by hearing, that this is bhaktya puman jata vairagya aindriyad, that just by hearing it dispels taste. But we have to understand what real hearing is. Hearing of the pastimes of the Lord. What that means, it means contemplation. It means that has to go on, otherwise there will be no realization if we're not contemplating upon what is being heard. So this pastime that is being performed here by Mahavishnu, although some devotees, we may disregard it, some devotees may disregard it as being, well, it's just Mahavishnu. But Srila Prabhupada in this verse directly comments that one should, or actually a part of the verse, it mat rachana, which means my activities of creation and so on. When one meditates and thinks about such things, what happens? Distaste for material sense gratification arises within the heart of the living entity. Actually, that is the Srila Prabhupada expounds upon that. But actually, in the direct word for word, the only thing that is being mentioned in terms of activity, it means my activities of creation and so on. It says and so on. But my activities of creation. So this is a very important part of Krishna consciousness, to know how this is happening. Therefore, there is this set of lectures by Gokul Chandra Prabhu on the, what is that, Goloka chart? On the Goloka chart, you can listen to that, and how he describes in detail of all of the different processes that take place in order to this manifestation to come about. And it's very nice, and you can try to remember them by just, what you can do. The ideas that, what Gokul Chandra Prabhu is speaking, you can you can directly apply those, directly see those in the world, and in that way you can remember it. Actually, that's a really easy way of remembering things. Is just to not just to like try to like just like put it into your memory, but actually see the world itself and connect it to that. You see the sky. How is the sky being manifested from Mahavishnu? There's a bunch of processes that are there. So when you see the sky, one can think like this, like, oh, this is coming from Mahavishnu, and then there's the Mahatattva, and then from the manifestation of, there's the false ego, and from that all of these things come, and then the sky is manifest, and from, I think everything starts by sound. See, I'm not, so then after that the sky is manifest, after sound, do you remember?
Sound would be there.
Yeah. So like this, one can think like this. Actually, it doesn't just have to be like philosophy in our head. It should be like practical things. We can just, the world is right there. How is this manifesting? How has earth come about? How has water come about? And you don't have to like memorize it in your head anymore. It's just like, oh yeah, this is how it works. You just know the cause and effect. So we can listen through those and try to just make them deep part of our lives. Basically, it's a part of our life. It's spiritual life. It is Krishna consciousness. So it is not that just we know the pastimes of Krishna, but we know the pastimes of Vishnu in different avatars, and even in this Mahavishnu of creation. So as Shukadeva Goswami is describing this very nicely, and it's seemingly, first time I read it, I was like, oh my God, it's like this is happening, that is happening, this is happening, oh my God, it's so hard to like think about, but it's actually a very important part plays a very important role within devotional service. So we should take these pastimes or these descriptions that are being mentioned here also very seriously. It is the Srimad Bhagavatam, so everything that is being spoken here is in relationship with Krishna. One just has to recognize that. So I'll end my class there. If there's any questions or comments, please feel free to ask. Yes, Kalki Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. I just got a couple questions. So one question is, could you maybe clarify like exactly like what you mean by like the spiritual masters like Trikalagya?
Yeah, just like that is mentioned there. Sometimes I've heard many times that he knows past, present, and future. Yeah. He is able to see what is going on because he's in touch with the super soul. He can see what is going to happen, just like the Supreme Personality of God. He knows what is happening in the past, going on at the present, and is going to happen in the future. Yeah. So the spiritual master is a manifestation of the super soul. So he's in touch with that. Yeah. So that seems to be that's the idea. Okay. I mean, maybe it needs any more clarification. I've definitely heard I mean, there's that one statement that Prabhupada explained that they asked him do you know how many windows are on the Empire State Building, and he said no, I only know what Krishna wants me to know, and that sense. There's a statement where Prabhupada says that Narada Muni is Trikalagya, and he knows the past, present, future. He's extremely powerful, and then I think there's also a similar statement with Vyas, and then obviously there's in the Nectar of Devotion it mentions I think Brahma and Shiva have that ability, but it seems to me I mean if there could be more clarification, but the spiritual master may know he's not all knowing how Super Soul does. Yeah. But then Krishna may empower him to know different things according to the service. Yeah, yeah. Because it doesn't seem at least Srila Prabhupada the Acharyas they knew all aspects of the history and things like that, and then they knew things of the future, and sometimes they would say different things, but generally it seems they would speak on what the Shastra says. Yeah. That's. I'm trying to see if I can find anything else. So here Prabhupada says in a lecture, that now what will happen in the future, everything is given there. Shastra means that is, therefore we accept Shastra, Trikala Gyan. The Shastrakara or the compiler of the Shastra must be liberated persons so that they can describe past, present and future. In the Srimad Bhagavatam you'll find so many which has been told in the future, just like in the Bhagavatam there is a mention of Lord Buddha. Yeah, I guess I can't find exactly. I'll have to look into it a little bit more. I've heard that.
Yeah, you can look into it more. One also thing just on that subject is like the one thing is like, I mean this is like on another like talk in itself, but like some people cite that like, you know, that Prabhupada like he didn't like because like he knows like the future, like therefore he didn't like elect those people as acharyas because he knew they would fall down. So therefore like why would he put those people up as gurus? So it's like something that they cite.
Yeah.
As like an instance of that.
They generally, it's like even Vrindavan, why did he let this person take that position and send disciples there and all this?
But they say like that. But one thing is like, you know, like Prabhupada may have like known different people were like disqualified, but then that like, you know, like it's hard to say like what anyways, that's like a whole topic in itself. I don't really want to get into that thing, but anyways, but kind of my understanding was like the Krishna like empowers like the spiritual master to like know whatever's like needed for the service, because otherwise it's like there's like so many different things. It's like kind of it seems like it's only something Bhagavan or like someone empowered can like know like every aspect of something, the past, present, and future.
Even if Krishna knows what is happening in the future, he may not stop it also.
Yeah.
It's not like just because you know what's happening, you're going to stop it.
Yeah.
You may let it happen just because it's like, okay, that's just, you know, that's what has to happen.
Yeah.
So it's like it's not that like, you know, saying, oh, Srila Prabhupada didn't know that this was going to happen. He knew like that my disciples are milechas and that my disciples are, you know, but this is what I have to do. And they're most likely they're not going to, you know, they're not going to be able to follow the principles.
Yeah.
But like this is just what has to be done, and I'm doing it. I know he knows the repercussions and whatever situations may come about, and some things are inconceivable. And so it's like the spiritual master, he assigns those, and just certain things that you just have to carry it out like that in order for some other situation to manifest in the, you know, some other situations to manifest. Yeah. Otherwise, so like Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, you know, who's an empowered, even it's like many places it's mentioned like that the great yogis they're able to anyways, I have to find some of the statements.
Yeah. There's one there. I mean, like I said, but like there's like Narada Muni that's mentioned. Narada
Muni is mentioned, and he mentions in another lecture here that so the sages in those days were Trikalagya. Trikalagya means they could understand, they could know what is past, present, and future. So it's like, especially in empowered personalities like Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, seems like, you know, seemingly those who he made mistake by allowing some of his disciples to take those, giving them those, you know, positions and such, but it's just. He allowed that to happen. It seems that's the proper understanding, that he knew that, you know, perhaps it was going to be like this, and what, you know, it's like allowed that to go on.
Yeah.
For some purpose that sometimes is not understandable to us.
Yeah. Yeah. I was just citing that as like an example, not to like get into that, but it seems like the general thing is like it mentions in reference like they know past, present, and future on the basis of Shastra. But there's definitely like a difference between like the omniscience of like Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality God, and then the omniscience of like like a jiva
personality.
Just as far as that goes. It seems, I mean, because otherwise, I mean, it's like, you know, how far do you go with it? Because it seems like Brahma knows past, present, and future, but like it doesn't seem like he knows past, present, and future like in a different universe. Because otherwise, like when like Brahma goes to see Krishna and Dwarka, he's like he's like, which, like, you know, like when he says like which Brahma is here, and he's like, what do you mean which Brahma? You know, and then he sees all those other Brahmas, and then he's just like, oh my God. And then you know, but anyways, that's like a big topic. I had another question, but maybe I'll just
Yes.
stop there and give it to somebody else.
Yeah, maybe we can, and then we'll come back.
I don't know if Abadud or anybody else has a question. You can. I don't want to, because there's so much time, and you know.
Prabhu, I have a comment and a question. You were mentioning about the importance of chanting your rounds, and Shiva Ram Maharaj says that you know you're chanting good japa when you don't want to stop.
Yeah. It's like, I hope I come to that point one day. Damn, it's like always
After-
looking to like, oh man.
Prabhupada's, how do you say, formula, or, Prabhupada was a pharmacist, so Prabhupada's prescription was what, 40 years, 50 years of chanting. So
It's
we
a
have
short
to
time.
take that medicine for sure.
Short time.
And my question, a kind of comment, reflection, kind of mixed in together, but I mean, you're speaking about hearing, the importance of hearing, the importance of chanting, and I've been contemplating lately how Krishna consciousness is really an internal culture, because you can look devotees as examples, like Bhrigupati Prabhu. He's just been performing the same activities for many decades, just doing sole activity of book distribution. And you can see the level of devotion he's come to, and then you can see, devotees like Dvibhuj Prabhu. He's just out, planting different grasses and making tinctures, living his whole life at New Talavan. And if you see them from the external perspective, they just seem like, I don't want to use the word ordinary because Vaishnavas are extraordinary, but it doesn't really seem like there's anything to be accomplished in Krishna consciousness, because they're just doing very simple activities, book distribution. Dvibhuj Prabhu is just growing corn.
Yeah.
It's very, very simple stuff, but I'm realizing it's really an internal process, and the importance of that can be challenging for those who are externally motivated.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to say something about that, but
Yeah. When you were speaking that, specific verse that came to mind is, not that I can remember the, whatever Sanskrit or the Bengali ever, but even the most learned man cannot understand the words, activities, and symptoms of a person situated in the love of Godhead. In other words, one cannot understand the movements of a Vaishnava. One cannot understand who a proper Vaishnava is, unless he himself is also a proper Vaishnava. Actually, it requires a great deal of realization to actually understand what a Vaishnava is, who a Vaishnava is. What was that?
The verse.
Yeah. Madhya Leela 23:39. It's very hard to understand the movements of a Vaishnava, the activities of a Vaishnava. And when one actually starts to realize the importance of Vaishnavas, then he himself, one should it should be understood he's gaining, his devotional service is increasing. If his attitude and mood in devotional service does not increase to serve the Vaishnavas, and his constant meditation is not upon how to serve the Vaishnavas, then one is not actually one is not advancing in devotional service. If he's feeling some envy towards the Vaishnavas, if he's feeling some feeling that this person is like this, like that, then we should understand we've been tainted with our devotional creeper is becoming choked up. So it's very difficult to see how the activities of a Vaishnava are actually making an impact in the world, because they're on a completely different platform. With our material eyes, we cannot see what's going on internally, and so that's the beauty of devotional service. Also, is that it is not visible externally. It is, but to those who have the eyes to see, But to most people, it's not visible. It's you look at Bhrigupati Prabhu, how humble he is, how you meet him and you don't feel like you're really meeting someone who's been distributing books for last 40 years of his life. It's like, it just feels like you're talking to someone that's like, you're just there in the room with them and he's like your friend, and it's like, how can you like see, oh, this person is very advanced? You can't. And Nephi cannot see that. It's like, oh, this person, and they won't regard him so highly. But then an advanced devotee sees the same person with simple heart and realizes, oh my God, he has all the qualities of a Vaishnava. All the qualities that are being described in the Srimad Bhagavatam, he has it. Because that person, he himself is also a Vaishnava. Although he himself doesn't see himself like that, he sees, he's able to recognize the quality. So it's a important part of our lives to test, actually, to see how much we're able to recognize such Vaishnavas and give them proper regard. And to the degree that we're able to give Vaishnavas proper regard, to that degree we're making advancement. Means, okay, who's being able to see, there's Madhyama Adhikari, who's a pure devotee, who is on the equal level with us, who is a devotee that's just begun, who is the envious, who are the innocent. To recognize all these things is a part of becoming advanced in devotional service. So most people cannot recognize. They just see the activity as a whatever, distributing books in Walmart for your whole life. Like, what the hell? You wasted your life. But then for those who understand what is book distribution, what is devotional service, it's just like the insurmountable devotion that they have is just like, it's just like it demands respect. It demands and commands respect. So, being able to recognize such devotees who have been performing devotional service their whole life is a very important aspect of just seeing it, like where we're at in our devotional service, and being able to serve them and care for them and see and see how we can do the best service for them or serve them through the instructions, such and such. So it's hard to see a Vaishnava. Chanting around, nobody's going to be able to spot that we're becoming pure. It's like we can see by the symptoms, generally. By doing book distribution, nobody's going to really congratulate us amongst the devotees. But like in the bigger picture of the world, what are we? Not much. So it's that Krishna consciousness, everything is internal. And those who take it externally, they don't last. Anything else? Is that okay?
Yeah, thank you, Prabhu.
You have one more thing?
It's like, it's almost 9 o'clock.
You want to quickly ask?
If you want to give like a quick answer.
Or comment?
But so another question I had was, let's see. So you were talking about like seeing things like connected to Krishna, like when we see the sun and different things like that, and then that's mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita. So is that something that is that something that just comes naturally, or is that something that we cultivate, like that we like try to like, or just kind of along those lines?
We definitely have to cultivate it because it's not there naturally. It's just like, I don't think we naturally ever thought that the lotus flower is like connected to Krishna before.
Yeah.
Krishna consciousness. So it's like, but now it's like I said, it's just so like every time we chant verses, it's like there's like not a verse which is glorifying the beauty of Krishna that doesn't include that. So it's like just hearing it again and making it, a regular practice, and then naturally, just like Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita in the 12th chapter, he says those, you always think of me, chant about me, but if you cannot do that, you engage your intelligence in working for me or thinking about me. But if you can't do that, perform the regular principles of devotional service. So it's just like that. This is practically a regular principle to see the sun. And actually in the mornings, when I was a new bhakta, I remember Mahotsav Prabhu was like, when we would see the sun come up, he would chant this verse, Chakshuresa Savita Sakala Grahanam. Actually, and it's making it part of my life every time in the morning. When you see the sun, you just remember that verse and meditate upon that verse. And it's very, actually, you think about it, and it's like, now, and Krishna says in that Bhagavad Gita, Antakale, what is it? Antakale chamameva. So at the time of death, you should think of me. So if we're in that consciousness, even at the time of death, we can't think of Krishna directly. Oh, we're dying. Who's death? Krishna is. Time I am the destroyer of all. It's like all that kind of, like we give ourselves the biggest chance at the time of death. We see something, but we can directly like relate it to Krishna. It's like a good practice to develop. It may not be like every time it's like, hey bro, it's like I'm seeing Krishna in this, but it's just like more internal. It's like, seeing Krishna in different, in his different manifestations that are going on.
Okay, yeah. Then I was going to ask, you kind of answered it also too, but if that could ever become like artificial.
Yeah, it's just like, it's not like, Krishna consciousness is an internal thing. It's not like we tell everyone every little thing. It's like, look bro, I'm thinking about Krishna like this. It's like, then it's like artificial, but it's like, it's not an external thing to tell others. Like, what is it? Vaishnava doesn't really reveal his, actually in terms, a lot of
it's not market gossip or something.
Yeah.
Narottam Das of course says that.
So amongst the close association about Vaishnavas, of devotees that we trust, we may tell them certain things, but it's like genuine. It's not like, bro, yesterday I was sitting there, and it's like every other day, I just saw Krishna, bro. I was like, this guy's bogus.
I got a lot of things coming to mind right now.
Yes.
Bogus things.
Yeah. It's like, it's like, this guy's freaking bogus. He's saying all this. But then you hear some advanced devotees, and you sit with them sometimes, and they speak, and it's like, wow. It's like, it's really like nectar to hear. It's like, wow, this person is actually having that experience. And you can tell they're having the experience because of the character they have. Some people talk like, bro, I've seen Krishna in this, but they're still struggling intensely with their senses and can't even, like, they have a terrible attitude towards devotional service, and they just talk about karmi stuff all the time. And it's like, how much were you actually like meditating and thinking? Because the symptoms of that is given in the Bhagavatam. What should happen? You should lose material desire. You should become attracted to the Lord, fixed in devotional service. Your mind should become controlled. So then we can recognize it, like, this guy's a phony.
Yeah.
And then we don't want to associate with such persons too much. It's like, whatever, try to give them association instead of taking theirs.
I got one joke. And then when someone steals our clothes in the laundry room or whatever, we could say it's just like when Krishna stole the clothes of the kids.
It's too much. It's like too far.
There was one devotee that, like, another devotee like picked him and grabbed him, and then he was like, oh Krishna, like, why are you like doing this to me?
Oh my God.
It was like kind of like, and that's a Hajja Bob. Anyways.
Whatever, that's like, it takes a little too far sometimes.
Yeah.
One may think like that, but it's not like you're telling everyone. It's like,
Krishna stole my clothes, guys.
Yeah, guys, no, it's like, so go get it back, you're going to lose that devotee. Somebody, anyways, if he hears this, somebody has 3 of my devotees.
Yeah.
So, okay. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.